National Geographic Kids' Weird But True World 2024 is a treasure trove of trivia about weird animals, strange sports, odd events, unusual buildings, and much, much more. And if your child enjoys learning about bizarre and unexpected things in our world, this book may make a nice addition to their library. Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, and welcome to the Kids Bookshelf. Ahead, we'll explore the book and talk with the editor about what you'll find here. I requested and was provided with a copy of the book, but this video is not sponsored. Kathryn Williams has been editing and, on occasion, writing and illustrating children's books at National Geographic Kids for 7 years. She joins us to talk about Weird But True World 2024. Incredible facts, awesome photos, and weird wonders for this year and beyond. Kathryn, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, this is the new edition of Weird But True World. How long has National Geographic Kids been producing this series?
So this is only the second edition of the book. So the last one was the first, and we are working on the third now. So it's pretty new, so it's very exciting for us.
In comparing the first two editions, this 2024 edition does cover some of the same weird subject areas, but with updates. So how much of the content is new, and how much of it is revisiting favorites from the previous edition?
Yeah, so we have 60% new stuff in the book, and we have a little bit of new stuff in most pages. If you flip the book open, you'll find something new. And then we have our first chapter of every edition is totally new. So it's a roundup of the world's weirdest of different categories. So we have new weird animals, weird jobs this year, and weird facts about the world, all kinds of things like that.
Well, let's talk about some of those weird animals in this book. And one of them is the hooded seal, which really is a weird-looking animal. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so a lot of these animals, part of what's weird about them is the way they look, and we have these very cool photos in the book. So the hooded seals are seals that they look kind of like typical seals sometimes, but the males also have this ability to inflate balloons on different parts of their head. So they have one black balloon that they can inflate on the top of their head, and then one red balloon they can inflate on their noses. So I say balloon, but it's like a sack on their face. And they do this to maybe if they're feeling aggressive with other males, this kind of shows their dominance, or it attracts females, but it's a very different looking seal than others.
Another weird one is the leaf sheep, which is neither leaf nor sheep.
Yeah, so the leaf sheep is a tiny sea slug. It's only about 0.4 inches long, so less than half an inch. And it really has a face that looks a lot like a sheep, but if a sheep was a cartoon. So it's got a white face with little horns and these two black dots on the face that look like eyes. And then where the sheep's wool would be, it looks like it's covered in leaves. So it's a sea slug, not at all similar to a sheep or a leaf, but it is very cute, and the name does describe what it looks like. And it spends its day kind of grazing on algae. So it's working on a much smaller scale than a real sheep would be. And the algae is what helps it be that bright green color.
Weird But True World is a National Geographic Kids publication. So for what age group would you recommend this book?
This is for an 8 to 12-year-old audience, so pretty classic middle school audience. It's got a lot of big photos, so if you have younger kids as well, they would enjoy looking at the photos. And I think as an adult, I've also learned a lot reading it. So it's really for everybody, but it is aimed at that middle school audience.
And Kathryn, why do you think weird things have such a special appeal to this audience?
I I think those kids at that age group, they're very excited about the world still. They have a really good sense of humor, so we like to appeal to that, and the weird stuff really helps with that. I also think that the particular kind of audience that we're targeting, there's kind of two kinds of kids who love our books, and one is these kids that memorize everything and they love trivia and they're going to learn all these facts, read this cover to cover, memorize it, and share it with their friends and parents. And we also appeal to a kind of more reluctant reader who maybe we've heard from parents they don't like to read any books, but they will read ours. So the weird angle makes that feel, I think, accessible to kids who might find other kind of reading dry or unappealing. They can flip to a page in this book and get sucked in.
There is a lot of information here. So, how is the book organized?
So the book is organized. So we have that first chapter that's kind of a weird roundup for the year. And then after that, we go into every continent from North America to Antarctica. And then we have a chapter on the ocean and a chapter in space. So we cover everywhere that we know of. And we try to get a good balance of within each continent, different countries, different ecosystems to really represent as much of the world as we can.
So, if you're looking for something specific, you can find it that way. But as you pointed out, it's fun to just dip in, open a page, and see what's there.
Yeah. I think that's my recommendation, and it's kind of fun to see how different places in the world are, but then also how some things are very similar. So in all places, there's people doing kind of funny things to entertain themselves. There's incredible buildings people have built. There's incredible nature all around the world. It's fun to see that.
There are some really wild sports covered in this book. One that caught my attention was kind of like snowboarding, but instead of snow, these people are boarding down the side of a volcano. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we have in our South American chapter volcano boarding on Cerro Negro in Nicaragua, and folks can rent sleds and board down the side of a volcano. It's covered in this volcanic ash that makes it easy to sled down. And we say this is for adults only, and frankly, adults that are braver than I am, but because you can go quite fast down the mountains. But we have photos of people volcano boarding, and they're wearing goggles and jumpsuits and safety gear, and it's quite cool looking. We also have some weird sports in the Europe chapter. One that I think is funny is extreme ironing, which comes to us from the UK. And people try to iron in as weird of locations as possible. So we have our photo in the book is of someone scuba diving and ironing at the same time. And I think the ironing is just for show at that point. But other people will iron when they're bungee jumping or on mountains or while water skiing. And so it's kind of this escalation of like who can iron in the weirdest place. So a lot of fun, weird sports in the book as well.
This next item isn't necessarily a sport, but it's a pastime that I'll never engage in. The book shows people sleeping in hammocks suspended by high wires across mountains hundreds of feet above the ground. And I don't know about you, but I could never sleep there. But to be fair, I would also never put myself in that position to begin with.
Yeah. I recall the I can see it, like the image that we have of these people all in their hammocks suspended between mountains in Italy doing this. We also have another kind of similar thing. It's not a sport, but a hotel where you climb up the side of a mountain and you sleep in a pod that's just hanging off of a cliff. Yeah, so we have some like very fun, extreme things that are maybe for our people who are more adrenaline oriented, but we like to show those kind of wild photos, and they really do make you kind of go, wow, I can't believe someone does that.
Now, something that you mentioned earlier that I think is new in this year's edition of Weird But True World is a list of weird professions. Tell us about that section of the book.
Yeah, so in chapter one, we do these weirdest roundups, and it's what we decide is kind of the weirdest job. This year, we did the weirdest jobs, we did weirdest animals, and so, of course, it's very subjective, and we'd love for kids to tell us what their weirdest selection is. But this year, in weirdest jobs, we had a dog surf instructor was what we crowned the weirdest. And so, if you happen to have two very specific skills, which is that you can surf and you can train dogs, you could perhaps train dogs to surf, which some people do. And these dogs can participate in surfing competitions. And folks have also trained other animals how to surf. Rats, goats, pigs have all been seen surfing. And some of the other weird jobs we feature are pet food testers, so people who actually taste small amounts of pet food in their jobs. We have people who are professional zombies, so the kind of background actors that might be in a zombie film. Um, and we have a pizza delivery person who scuba dives with pizza to give to people who are staying in underwater hotels. So those are some of the examples of weird jobs we have featured.
As you were editing this book for National Geographic Kids, what are some of the things that captured your imagination and you thought were exceptionally weird?
Yeah, so I there's so much that I love. It is so hard to choose, a favorite. I'm always partial to some of the weird animals in the world. I've been an animal nerd since I was a kid, so I love getting to show some weird animals to kids. One that really surprised me because I sometimes I feel like I've seen it all and that's my mistake. And I'm always humbled by these books when I see something that I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. There's a bird called jacana. We feature it in the Australia section, but different species live in different parts of the world. And I saw the photo of it at first, and it looked like a bird that had about a dozen legs, and I was shocked. I was like, I don't understand how this is possible, but it's actually that the father bird keeps walks around and keeps its babies inside of its wings, so their feet dangle out of its wings, and they all have really long legs, so it looks like a bird with a dozen legs. But it's actually a bunch of babies that it's hiding in its wings. So that was one of my favorite creatures in the book. Another strange bird that I really like is the sociable weaver, which is a type of bird in Africa that builds these jaw-droppingly large nests. They're kind of like, a bird, what we would think of would have a nest that's for its family, but these are more like bird apartments. So they're these huge nests that can contain like 400 different sociable weaver birds, and they all live together. And some of these nests have known to be inhabited for 100 years, just one. So it's like they have these giant bird apartments that they live in.
I'm talking with Kathryn Williams about Weird But True World 2024. This is a fascinating book for kids and curious adults as well, as I can attest to. So, how does this fit into the overall mission of National Geographic?
It fits in really, really nicely, actually. So we have several different types of books that National Geographic Kids creates, and some of them are these weird but true books that are fun facts, photos, kind of silly books, and then we do also have our more kind of scholastic atlases and almanacs. And this book is a nice combination of the content is really zany and fun, and but we also have maps and we have a global perspective. And so, what we really want to do is show kids the world, get them excited about it and all the things in it, and open their eyes to what's out there, things they might not get the chance to see for a very long time, if ever. And so, this book really does that nicely. And we do have a map for every chapter where you can see all the countries in each continent, but it's peppered with weird facts and photos.
As you mentioned, you're already working on next year's edition, so you're not worried about running out of weird stuff in the world?
I do worry about it, but it turns out every year that the worries are unfounded because there's plenty of weird stuff. And sometimes, like this book, for example, some of the stuff that we found for it was actually weirder than the first book, and I thought we would have gone through all the best stuff that year, but in fact, no. There's plenty more.
Well, to learn more and see pictures of some really weird stuff, it's National Geographic Kids' Weird But True World 2024. Incredible facts, awesome photos, and weird wonders for this year and beyond. Kathryn Williams joined us to talk about the book. Kathryn, thank you very much for talking with me today.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
If you'd like to purchase a copy of Weird But True World 2024, I've placed a link for you in the description below. Thank you for watching this edition of The Kids Bookshelf. And if you'd like to see more videos about children's books, be sure to like, subscribe, and click on the bell to be notified about future programs. I'm Dan Skinner. Until next time, keep sharing the gift of reading.